call.
When all that you see
are actors on your television singing off key.
What savvy, well-versed heroes can settle this score. Once more with TV. Welcome, Scoobies and Snacks, to Once More with TV, a podcast celebrating TV musical episodes from the sublime to the subprime.
And definitively ranking them using every theater child's worst nightmare, math.
I'm your co-host, Alex Kovnatsky, he, him, and I am a survivor of many student theater productions.
And I'm your co-host, Liza Truschel, she, her, and I've seen every episode of television.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode, Once More with Feeling, the Buffy musical episode, which we've named our whole show after. It is season 6, episode 7, dropped November 6, 2001. This is a post 9/11 episode.
How dare you?
Liza, I want to know, what's your relationship with Buffy?
I fucking love Buffy. Buffy was very formative to me in my early teen years, as I think it was to many folks my age, particularly women and queer folks. And yeah, I'm just a huge fan. I've seen this episode probably about like a million times. I've listened to this soundtrack a million times. I am all over it. What about you? What about Buffy for you?
Yeah, I also love Buffy. When people ask me what my favorite TV show is, I still often reply with Buffy or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is, you know, other end of the spectrum. But it's incredible. You know, obviously, Joss Whedon, not incredible, a person we don't love, but he makes good stuff that also, you know, Buffy has its problems as well, too.
No, I think most Buffy fans, especially ones around our age, like millennials, you have to have a very nuanced relationship to Buffy, because upon each rewatch, I feel like I see more of what I don't like about Joss Whedon in it. And I have to separate that for me from what I do love about it. And there are several great podcasts and books about this that we can highly recommend. That's not really what we cover here. Joss Whedon, we're not huge fans. This podcast was almost called Joss We Done, but that's actually not what it's about.
Yeah, 2 podcasts with commas in them.
Yeah, we're terrible at this. Anyway.
I want to talk about this episode. We've obviously talked about this episode in our personal lives a million times. It's fun to do it in this format where we're going to dissect every little bit of it. But let's start at the beginning. We get like an actual title card and opening credits kind of thing. Very vintage.
Yeah, I think it's the only time we stray from the Nerf Herder song that opens every other episode. I think this is the only time we get something different. I just appreciate that, like, right off the bat, we're doing a different episode. Like, this episode is going to break all of the rules. We're not even doing the intro like normal, you know? And I love that. It's very old Hollywood, too, you know? Our faces in the moon. It's very, like, the Bewitched intro. It's quite, like, campy, and I'm all in. Yeah,
we get, like, a fun and classic overture, too. Like you were saying, very vintage musical. And I think one of the things that really struck me, because we've watched this a bunch of times, but I've never really looked at it with a critical lens. That overture going directly into going through the motions is seamless. I really love that.
Chef's kiss. I know. It's actually delightful.
And even before that, we get the one shot, like a bunch of one shots of like people just kind of like doing their daily routine with no speaking.
Well, we get like, yeah, exactly. We get this montage of people like going about their daily lives, but it's a very fun little like scene setup, and it feels very music theater-y. The choreographer for this is Adam Shankman of Hairspray fame. And you can tell what blocking he had a hand in, because to me that feels very like classic music theater.
Absolutely.
That blocking.
Yeah, I think they use a different kind of widescreen lens for this as well too.
They do. Yeah.
I do want to point out one horseshit thing that they do though. They like start with this like alarm bell ringing, Buffy waking up, and then going through the motions is immediately at night in a graveyard.
Yeah, we do skip, like, Giles is, like, handing her an axe, and then immediately it's evening.
There's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, how many days have passed? I have no idea the sense of time of this.
It's a pretty ludicrous time jump to include in the middle of an overture, but then we do get going through the motions, which bops. Yeah. It's a great song.
Yeah. It's a fantastic song. Great lyrics. Nothing seems to penetrate my heart. Like, I live for that.
Ideal.
That's so strong.
Love that.
And I, immediately, and you and I love this, and we'll talk about this a bunch, but immediately they're taking everything so seriously, right? Like, this is just a straight musical. We're going for it. Nobody's winking at the camera.
The commitment is there. Like, I think for me, from, like, first of all, the title card is intriguing. Like, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm on the edge of my seat. And the moment I know we've all bought full in is when those two vampires and that demon, like, Buffy is lying down in the foreground, and we have a shot where the two vampires and the demon come in kind of doing, like, weird music theater arm swings. And I'm like, oh, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, we're going full on camp. Like, we are not winking, we are committing. And I'm thrilled.
One thing that I actually was a little bit surprised about is that I thought there would be, like, more kind of overt references to other musicals, because we know Joss Whedon's a huge musical fan, and it's clear in the writing in more subtle ways than I expected. Like, this is an I Want song. It feels almost like a Disney I Want song, but there's not, like, a direct reference to, like, I don't know, Belle in Beauty and the Beast, or, some other kind of specific song.
Or Part of Your World, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really nice touch. The music feels incredibly original, and very Buffy as well, too.
I mean, that it helps when the person who writes your show is also a composer. That, like, does sort of help you. So, yeah, Joss Whedon composed all of it with the help of his ex-wife, Kai Cole, who I want to shout out. She's on the demo tracks if you're a big old nerd and you want to listen to those.
Yeah, those demo tracks are a little bit rougher, I'll say.
They are. They're demos, though. They're allowed to be. I do think also the huge benefit of having your lead writer as your head composer is an understanding of cast ability. Like, everything's actually written for the people who are singing it in a way that is very, especially when we're using found music, it's, like, almost impossible to, like, match the vocal level of your team. So, like, this episode does rely really heavily on Tara and Giles in ways that other episodes normally don't lean on Tara and Giles so heavily. But they're they're the most talented singers, so we lean on them. And this song is written to be pretty much within Sarah Michelle Gellar's range. It's a little talk singy, which is what she's really good at. And so, yeah, there is a sense that everybody's like doing something different and fun, but we're not really taking anyone out of their, like, vocal comfort zone, which is nice.
Yeah, and we see that a bunch with Xander and with Spike as well, too. I completely agree that the melodies are really specifically written for everybody's voices, which is pretty amazing, honestly. The last thing I want to say about this song before we move on, I think it's kind of a big swing to kind of talk about how alone Buffy feels as, like, kind of the opening number. And it works perfectly with the end of the episode as well, too, bookending that point. I just think that's a really nice touch and an interesting version of an I Want song.
Yeah, it's the I Want song from someone who is currently emotionally disconnected from everything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's hard to write an I Want song for someone who right now doesn't want anything.
Yeah, who maybe wants to be dead. Season 6 was rough.
Season 6 really did a lot for Buffy. that poor thing. Every time I watch the show, I'm, like, more on Buffy's side than the last time I watched it.
100%.
I just get more in her camp.
100%.
And yeah, she's struggling. The only thing I'll say about the end of this is that the use of vamp dust as, like, a sparkle effect is absolutely iconic and perfect. No notes. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then we kind of immediately get the reveal in the next scene, like, hey, did anybody else burst into song? I love that. It almost feels like in every song they have, like, a button after the song that's like, isn't this crazy that we're all singing? And sometimes in a lot of other contexts, I would hate that kind of thing of, like, almost like a winking to the camera, like I was saying before, but it feels lived in. It feels kind of real for this universe that crazy things happen all the time.
For this universe, they have to. Crazy things do happen in this universe, and even a break in medium must be addressed by the cast. And then out of that, we get I've Got a Theory, which is a really fun song, a really fun Why Are We Singing song. I love a fun Why Are We Singing song. If done well, they're great. They're a huge swing, again, but if they're done well, they're very fun. And, yeah, I love I've Got a Theory.
It's incredible. And I love that, we still have the kind of very plucked strings musical theater, like early 50s kind of musical theater kind of thing. But then we have like the rock musical for Anya kind of breaking out to sing about bunnies. Honestly, that whole transition's jarring, but I love it. It's
quite jarring, but it's also, I think, very true to like Anya as a character who doesn't read cues at all. And is going to do sort of her own thing and not listen to everyone else. So I don't mind it. It's also, there are some really fun lyrics and I've Got a Theory. I mean, specifically for me, when it turns into like a classic Buffy rallying the troops, when she, like the apocalypse, we've all been there, like just like really tossing the rest of the show under the bus, like it's do or die. Hey, I've died twice.
Yep. So good. The bit with the witches as well too. That long kind of like Sondheim rappy witches kind of thing is great.
Yeah, Xander covering for himself when he realizes that he's slandering women,
which is every episode.
Xander backpedaling.
I think the thing that I was really struck by too is that whenever they're singing in chorus, the balance and the mixing is like just so very good. I really feel like I can hear like each individual voice in not an annoying kind of way. They blend really well. Which like kudos to whoever was editing and mixing that.
Yeah.
And Giles is just so good.
Giles is great. And we really are relying on the people who are natural singers, and Anthony Stewart Head is great. And I can never get enough of his like emotional echoes over the songs. I think I giggle every time, but it's a sound I'm not laughing at him, but it's just a sound of sheer joy. Like there's something so funny to me about this like really like sort of prudish and very stereotypically British and aloof character getting all of those like emotional powerhouses. There's something like that really works for me when he's doing that.
Totally.
I also just love Giles. I'm just such a huge fan of my TV dad, Giles.
Yes. I mean, he's perfect, except for when he's not, but he's still perfect.
Except for those times when he's not, but
let's not talk about those. The formula seems to be like, let's get everybody singing together with a little bit of harmonies and then give Giles or Tara a counterpart that's like very tasteful.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're the ones that can do it.
Exactly.
It's great.
I think the next song technically is the mustard song.
Yeah, they got the mustard out.
Incredible.
You gotta check if the rest of the world is infected.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great note because it really feels like the whole world is infected with this throughout the entire episode. Like more so than I've seen in any other musical TV episode where it's like, hey, let's treat this like actually the whole world is infected by this.
No, we get multiple background goofs about other songs going on. I mean, like we've got this one, they got the mustard out, but then there's that parking ticket later on, and there are also just people dancing in the background of scenes. So like everybody's doing their own musicals, which is really fun. And of course, like Dawn comes in at the end of the song and says like, oh, we sung in math class today.
Yeah.
Like it's everybody is singing, which is kind of delightful.
It's so good. By the way, David Fury is the mustard guy and Marty Noxon is the parking ticket. Like that's just so fun.
That is so fun.
Two of the
we
writers
love incorporating
of the show.
Writers. Yeah, we love incorporating writers into the show. That's delightful.
The next song we get, Under Your Spell, may be the best song in the show.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It might be.
Maybe that's a conversation for later.
Yeah. There's an argument to be made. I think Amber Benson is so good. I love Amber Benson on like a lot of levels. It also just has to do with who she is as a person. I also think she's just like so. The one thing about this song that doesn't work for me actually is that Amber Benson is so beautiful. There's like, it's so weird to me that nobody else would have ever noticed her. I kind of believe it because like she's done such a good job of characterizing Tara as someone who is like socially quite uncomfortable and clearly experiences a lot of social anxiety, but it's still just like so wild to me that people would not notice.
Yeah, well, some boys do. Some boys do notice. Some boys and she's do.
Yeah, it's a very cute little joke. But yeah, no, she's got this great like kind of Nora Jonesy, like that, like early 2000s, like that could have been. There were a lot of singers who were kind of doing this shtick. But she's got impressive range too. Yeah. I mean, she carries all of our high soprano parts and a lot of our mezzo parts. Yeah. She's like,
and the hook on this song too is so good. It's such an earworm, and there's so many songs in this show where I'm like, oh, actually, I would and do sing the hooks of these songs. You know. There's like a goof that Anya makes way later about asking if something is a breakaway pop hit or a book number. And like, it does feel like every song in this show is divided on that spectrum. It's like either we're going for like a real traditional musical theater song, or we're going for like kind of like a pop guitar kind of, alt pop kind of song of this era. And totally. I think this is one of those, and it's so good. I really like this song.
It's so great. There's also, of course, like the obvious double meaning and under your spell. So we're getting some fun play there with the idea that she is currently under a memory spell, which obviously she doesn't remember. But playing with that is fun. And then, of course, it like really just hard turns into being a song about lesbians in a way that is delightful and feels like a real fuck you to censors, which is really fun. I mean, we don't have to go over all of that. It's very obvious, but spread beneath her willow tree, you make me come complete. She levitates. It is like we are barely in the world of entendre. We're basically just
we're full in it. Yeah. And then the hard cut to, I bet they're not even working. That's just like, it's such a good button on that. It's
so good. It's such a good button. It's such a classic to me, like Joss Whedon smash cut joke. He loves like a quick smash cut that comments on the scene that came just before it, whether like usually when those people were not in the room to comment on that scene.
Exactly.
He does that multiple times in this episode, but it's a really classic Buffy joke. And it's very, very fun.
And it never gets tired for me. I like, maybe that's a personal bias. I giggle
every time.
It hits me every time. We have our like very brief first introduction into Sweet, kind of like a teaser. Should mention that Sweet is Hinton Battle, who's a 3-time Tony Award winner for a bunch of stuff. I think he always won featured actor. But he was also the original Scarecrow in The Wiz, which I think is very fun.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That is fun.
Incredibly talented. And he has so much fun in this show.
He's just having a great time. Yeah, but it's fun. We are about a third of the way in when we realize what the danger is here, right? Because it's really all been all fun and games. We sort of like, we've had a couple little sides of like, we should really figure out what's going on here, guys. But everybody seems to be mostly sort of enjoying themselves until we get this person who tap dances until he combusts.
Yeah. Buffy. They don't make shows like this anymore, really, you know?
They really fucking don't,
Why are people tap dancing until they burst into flames?
What has happened to TV?
You're the expert. You've seen every episode. Tell us.
Oh my god, I know. It's bad now. That's my entire review. No, I could take a different conversation. I could talk for ages about the good and bad effects of quote unquote prestige television. But anyway, we go into the only song that doesn't work for me.
Whoa, hot take. I feel so differently.
The hottest.
Please tell me. Please tell me.
I like, Okay, so the song we're talking about is I'll Never Tell, which is Anya and Xander's little duet. Things that do work for me. Anya's lingerie is so beautiful.
Awesome.
I could cry.
Yeah.
She looks amazing.
Those
Her
little shorts.
costume work, she looks so phenomenal. Her hair looks great, even though she just woke up. That's always like a real pet peeve of mine on TV when like, or in movies when women wake up with like perfect hair and perfect makeup. But I'll forgive it because A, that's not her fault, and B, it kind of works for this number, I think, actually. So I'm fine with it. I think it's a fun number, like musically. I think it's fun. What doesn't work for me is that they are, I think we can't decide on the world of what is diegetic and what is non-diegetic.
Sure.
Like, what are they saying to me versus what are they saying to each other?
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't seem to be a rule for it because they can hear each other at times because they'll jump in on each other's, like, this is my verse, hello. Like, they'll jump in on each other's things. They'll rhyme with each other. But there's no... These are things they're not saying to each other, and they do not, at the end of the song, they have not heard what the other person has said, continuity-wise. So it always bothers me. What's really great about so much of this episode is that people have to sing what they feel. We're taking that like idea of like you sing what you can't say in musicals super literally. Like now you literally have to sing it, right? But in this one, I can't tell when they are and are not hearing each other. And it bothers me. It just bothers me that they can hear each other in the song, but then at the end of the song, they haven't internalized any of that information.
I hear what you're saying, actually, and I think that's a good point. And it's a problem later, too, when Giles has his song and Buffy's like, what did you say? Or did you say something? Or like something like that, where you're like, oh, I guess all of that was internal singing. But this one confuses it more because some of it is clearly internal and some of it is like, oh, I'm going to directly respond to the thing you said.
Exactly. Yeah. Just either, for me, just make the whole song internal or make it all external or just make the break clear. Like, I just can't tell when we can hear each other and when we can't. And it has like huge implications for their entire relationship.
Yeah.
So it's like, the song kind of drives me crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
For me, I don't mind it so much because it's kind of like the hokey campy thing of old school movie musicals, especially where we have that kind of like fixed set and moving camera at times. I really like that aspect of it, and like it's very cheeky. And I think
it's quite cheeky.
Most of that, like,
really fun rhyme schemes going on too.
Crazy rhyme schemes.
Like, am I crazy? Am I dreaming? Am I marrying a demon? We could really raise the beam and make marriage a hell. Like, that is a fun riff.
The lyrics are so good. They're so good. But yeah, I know I get what you're saying. I guess I just don't care as much about that bit. I'm like, be inconsistent, whatever. I love again when they're like, they end with that laughter falling down. It feels so vintage to me, and then they cut immediately to like, why are we singing? This sucks. Is so
yeah. They're
funny.
like, this is a nightmare.
I think for me, I remember first time watching Buffy, the Hell's Bells episode where he leaves Anya at the altar is like so wild to me that happens. And I feel like this is our first like real big taste of that happening so soon. Or like so near when that episode actually happens. So I think looking back on it, I'm reminded of Hell's Bells and I go like, oh yeah, this is crazy that this is happening.
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I for all of Buffy's flaws, I think sometimes they do really good job hinting at character arcs. Like, I think Willow's like character arc is so almost unparalleled in television, honestly. Like, everything about Willow that goes sideways is there from like episode 1. It is totally insane. So yeah, I do think we're clearly building Xander and Anya's. We're trying to illuminate the cracks in that foundation. Yeah, to me, I think, yeah, that's what actually drives me crazy, is if they heard each other, they would have to have a conversation about all
These
the
two
things
are
they
never
just said, and we
have
might
that
avoid
conversation.
that episode. I know they're not. That's the point of the song. But then don't converse in the song. Anyway.
Last bit. I love how much both of them commit to the dancing. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Xander, but like he really does commit to the dancing as bad as he is.
He's terrible, but he's there. Yeah,
but that's exactly what should be happening for the character in that moment, right? That feels authentic, and I really like that. Yeah, we're getting up to Spike. Your boy Spike, who quote remains immune, right?
I fucking love Spike so much. And he has just like, Spike is this like magical male character for me where he has just like, I love these guys that have just like absolutely no chill. Like Spike is someone who just has never chilled out about anything in his life. And yeah, again, we're doing that very literal, like, you have to sing about your feelings thing. Like, Spike clearly doesn't want to. And he even rolls his eyes when he starts singing. He's trying really hard to get Buffy out of the room so he won't sing about how he loves her. And it's such a delightful dynamic.
It's so good. Rest in Peace is such a banger too. We're getting more of the like pop rocky kind of vibe, which like again
which works for Spike.
It fits Spike. It also fits Buffy, and it also fits kind of musical theater at the time too. That's like our Spring Awakening. I guess Spring Awakening hadn't come yet, but like this is like Rent-ish into Spring Awakening kind of territory.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah, it makes so much sense for Spike's vibe. Again, like there's a joke in season 7 that Billy Idol stole his look off of Spike.
I love that. I love that so much.
It's a really good one. It's also, for this one, it's all in the cell. Like this is like, James Mercer's is not like a particularly great singer, but he's so in the moment that you can't not watch him and you can't like not enjoy what's going on.
100%.
Such a commitment to the bit. such a delightful song, I think, too. I think it really does such a good job of distilling that Buffy Spike dynamic of he does not want to be in love with her at all.
Exactly.
This is happening against his will and he's very angry.
I love it. It's so good. I have a question though. Who's having a funeral at night? Like, why is that happening at all?
I don't know. Maybe all of their friends were vampires. I have no idea.
That's interesting. Yeah. I kind of like that for them.
But it like the button on this song is Spike kind of like he's fallen into that grave, and then Buffy like jumps out and runs away, and he pops out and goes, "Where are you going?" It's like it's also such a Spike thing where he's like he's all bark and no bite with Buffy for this season.
Exactly.
I mean, he can't bite because he has a chip in his head.
Literally can't bite.
Literally can't bite.
All bark and can't bite. A little interlude in between the next bit that happens is Dawn breaking the news about Willow and Tara fighting, which is like, talking about the stakes of this episode. So much gets revealed in this episode. It's wild. And I love that the "I'm Under Your Spell" like backing plays when this news is broken, and Tara like touches the flower, and like that chorus happens. I think it's fun. I love this kind of stuff. It's overt, but like it's great.
Yeah, we also get a really this is another like really wonderful example of utilization of your cast's talents, which is we start Dawn having a song. She's not good. She sounds pretty whiny. So we immediately turn it into a ballet number.
Yeah,
which is really fun.
My note for Dawn's Lament was short, and then it's the next one. But I found out after the fact that apparently she asked to like not sing too much because she doesn't like the sound of her own voice, and wanted to have the ballet sequence instead because she is a dancer. And I think that's nice to like kind of have like, okay, you're gonna have to do a little bit, but like we'll give you your dance number. Like I love that flexibility.
It's great, and she just does a great job at ballet acting. Like she's clearly a ballet dancer. She's clearly trained. She's got great movement, and I love a good bit of ballet acting. Ballet acting's fun. So yeah, I overall enjoy the ballet, and nobody else really does that. Nobody else has long solo dances. Yeah. So it's kind of nice to let her shine in the way that Michelle Trachtenberg is talented.
I also like on a random note, like Buffy villains often have the craziest costume, makeup, mask design that often doesn't work. I really loved the masks though in this. I felt like, especially since that scene was all silent, I think like non-moving mouths of those masks were like pretty cool. But
it's very Nutcracker.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
That is what it is. Yeah, it's very Nutcracker. They're wearing these big puppety wooden masks.
And then we finally get actual Sweet.
Finally.
God. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this villain of the week?
I mean, Sweet is probably my favorite villain of the week, period. He's such a delight. He's so talented, as we've mentioned, that this is such a fun, sultry, like jazzy kind of number to intro someone in. He does a very fun Beyonce homecoming costume transition.
I love Blue.
That. He is really fun. The only note I have really actually about this is that it's been so long. He has an incredible range. This singer, he's unbelievably talented. It's been so long in his lower register when I think his upper register is so much more engaging.
Yeah.
I just wish he was allowed to I don't think everything else feels like it was written for that person. And for him, it feels like we're underutilizing him. Like, I just want more of him.
Yeah. I think, though, I will say to counter that, I think that works for it, though, right? Like, the understatedness and the kind of, like, not showing everything yet makes us lean in a little bit more. And I find him a little bit more menacing when he is, like, showboating a little bit less. But I agree with you. I wish we kind of utilized his strengths a little bit more, especially towards the end when things kind of get more climactic. But
yeah, totally.
It's so good.
No, that's a good point, though. Like, no, he's amazing. He is so fun to watch. He's so engaging. He's so talented. Like, those performers where they just come on and you feel safe. You're like, oh, you know what you're doing. Fine. Like, I can sit back. I'm safe. I can just be here. Let you do your thing. Yeah. And he really has that effect on this episode.
The very beginning, I don't know if this is a reference to, but the very beginning when he's like doing the little tap dancing down the stairs, reminds me of the Nicholas Brothers, that like famous routine. And I think that's an homage to that.
It reminds me of that too. I assume it must be if we both thought of it.
Yeah, I guess, right?
But also, maybe it's just that we are nerds. I have no idea.
Who knows? I think we might be nerds. I think that might be part of it. Yeah, I also want to say that like maybe this might like muted trumpets. Whenever they do that, is that the most sexy noise you can make of all time? Is that it?
Oof, it might be. I mean, it's up there. I'm very seduced by a French horn. I'm not gonna lie to you. I find a French horn extremely seductive.
It's an interesting one.
I know. I don't know. Something about it. It's so smooth.
Afterwards, we see Buffy training with Giles, and like, I also wrote a note here of just like, man, I miss 20 plus episode orders where we just get to watch people train and like do random other stuff that doesn't, have to like move plot super far forward.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Ugh, I love a filler episode.
Yeah, I literally just saw Buffy training and I was like, I miss this. I miss seeing Buffy train. Like, that's just such a nice little touch. And we got some Giles time.
We get heavy Giles time with standing. Yeah, it's a sad song. I mean, of course, by this point in the show, Anthony Stewart Head was clocking out a bit. He had realized when they signed the new order for season 6 and 7, which were going to be on a new network and therefore required all new deals, he'd realized that he had like 2 young kids and he hadn't really been present for their entire lives because they lived in England. Yeah. So he made the extremely reasonable decision to cut back his time on Buffy. So we have to kind of exit Giles, which sucks. And it's very sad and it's genuinely very affecting for me still.
Totally.
I don't love this song. It's fine. I do think Anthony Stewart Head does a great job. I think like that's what really is in it for me. I don't think it's the most musically interesting of the songs here.
Yeah, I wrote here that it's like very kind of like understated dad rock kind of thing. I like this song. I think the melody's really nice, but maybe it's because I like dad rock too.
Yeah, it's very dad rock, which again, he's our dad. That's fine.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I really like the sequences where he's like throwing ninja stars and Buffy's like kicking him in slow motion. Like, I don't know why that whole sequence is moving to me, but it is. And we were raising the stakes, too. I don't know if this is the first time we get a hint that Giles is 1 foot out the door, but I feel like it is, potentially.
It's either the first or it's the first explicit mention of it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think before that, we've had like moments where he's sort of shirking when Buffy's trying to put a lot of responsibility on him for her daily life. And we see moments of him not enjoying that. But I do think this is the first time we full out, like, he says with his chest, he's gonna leave, you know?
But you're right, too, what you were saying before, that, like, so many of these songs allow these characters to be introspective and, like, have their own kind of I want moments and feel, like, motivated to sing about the thing that they're either insecure about or contemplating or whatever. I think they do that really well throughout this, and this is just another example of that.
Totally. It also makes me feel like each character, like our team is living a musical and the songs work together enough that they sound like a collective musical, but the different styles are enough to lead me to believe that everybody is also in their own musical. Like Anya and Xander are in their retro pastiche, and we've got Giles in his like dad rock show.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got, you know, like, we've got different shows going on, and Giles is going to be a different kind of speed than everyone else's, but it's okay.
Yeah. But then after that, we have a reprise, Under Your Spell and Standing reprise. You know, the like small touches of like I guess it's not a small touch, but like the superimposed head with Giles in the background is like so old school as well too.
Yeah. It kind of works.
It works.
So stupid that it works. You're just like, okay.
It's so dumb that it works.
It's so dumb, but it works. Yeah, we're sort of melding these two worlds of, again, like, I mean, the uniting line is, I wish I could stay, right? And like, of course, Tara has learned that her mind is being manipulated. Pretty toxic element of her relationship, magical or not. And Giles has to leave too. And so there's something very like genuinely affecting to me. Again, these are our two best singers. So that has something to do with it. They can put a lot of emotion into their voices, and they're doing these sort of counter melodies that really work. And then they're both looking at the women they love being like, I wish I could be here for you, and I can't. And it sucks.
Yeah. Like, the counterpart is really, really great. I think it's really pretty. I think it doesn't 100% work towards the end when Tara's holding all of her stay lines. I just wish they had another pass with that and like change the melody a little bit.
Give her a little bit more to do.
Yeah, it also is just like the notes don't really line up. But I you know, it's such a smaller thing that it doesn't bother me so much. But yeah, I think this whole number is really, really moving, like you said.
Yeah, it gets me.
Then we have like a little bit of dialogue. Everybody starts kind of fighting. This is when our tensions kind of come to a boil a little bit. This is also where Anya says the breakaway pop hit or book number, which I wrote down. I just love that line.
I love her.
Yeah.
Love Anya.
And it's nice that we have this moment of the Scoobies all fighting before we get to walk through the fire. It feels more cathartic when we're all together with that. But yeah, walk through the fire is another banger there too.
Walk Through the Fire rocks. It's very like music theater. We're all doing our little lines. We're all going to come together for the group number. We haven't had a group number in a minute. We've been doing a lot of solos and duets.
Yeah.
We haven't had a group number since I've Got a Theory, I think. So it's really very fun to get back to like a good old fashioned like 11 o'clock number.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's fun.
And I think they do a good job again of bringing up the fact of how alone Buffy feels in this moment as well too. It's just I think this whole sequence is great. I love I think my line is mostly filler. That gets me literally every time.
It's very funny. It's also very it's coming off of Spike going, first he'll kill her, then I'll save her. And he goes, wait, no. First he'll save her, then I'll kill her. He's like, again, that dynamic of Spike and Buffy where he's just like so infuriated that he loves her so much and does not know how to handle it in any kind of way. I find extremely charming.
Yeah. This is a super nitpicky thing for me, but I always, on the very end, I always want either way more harmony on Burn or just unison. Because like it's either like they're all meshing and harmonizing together, or they're not metaphorically, and I feel like they just harmonize on the last burn and it's just like a little bit. I just want either a lot more or a lot less.
I see that. I think that makes sense.
But I love the kicking down the door and then getting into the next song like kind of right away.
It's delightful. Well, the next song is Something to Sing About, which, as you kind of mentioned before, is such a brilliant and direct continuation of our opener. It's this idea, again, that Buffy cannot feel anything right now, and it sucks.
Yeah, and I think that paired with the "she needs backup" is just so great.
Oh my god, the "she
Maybe
needs
the best
backup" line is so iconic. Because yeah, we just go in and we start singing backup. It's unbelievable. Everybody else is cowards. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. No, it's delightful. The choreo here is really wild. It's this very angry choreo. I'm not 100% sure it works.
No.
It's very weird to me. And I think the choreo is very, like, it seems very fight-based, which does make sense for Buffy's character and for probably Sarah Michelle Gellar's skill set. Like, I don't think she is a dancer. I think she's probably more comfortable in the, like, karate kind of language, like, body-wise. Sure. And so, yeah, I mean, the choreo doesn't land for me. I think it's very weird. But, you know, it is supposed to be she's losing control. So I guess we can kind of give... Yeah.
They have to show she's going to do her own version of tap dancing herself to death. So, like...
And Buffy would never tap.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. Everything about this song is a little bit all over the place for me. But I don't care so much because, like, we get to the thing that we need to get to in a good way, I think. The revelation that, like, 100%. Buffy was pulled out of heaven, like, really hits in the middle of the song. I also, like, I've always kind of hated the heaven and living refrain. I was pulled out of heaven. I know it's supposed to be...
We go immediately into, like, discordant, like, minor shit.
Yeah. I know that's, like, the point. And it does stick in my head. I think about that, like, little, you know, 2-note melody all the time. But I hate it every time it comes up. And I think that might be a personal problem. But it is what it is.
No, I kind of feel the same way, if I'm honest. I mean, like, I get it. I get why it's happening. It is something that I think to most music theater kids is so familiar because of people like Sondheim, who do that so intentionally, who leave phrases unresolved and who intentionally put characters into, like, you know, throw a flat or a sharp in there when you're not expecting it, something that's not the key signature.
Yeah.
That is, you know, so that is such a classic of Sondheim. Sondheim does it a lot better.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
the thing to me is that, I know, but the thing to me is that when Sondheim does that, if you're going to, it still has to sound good.
Yeah.
And to me, it doesn't sound good here. Like in a Sondheim, you won't notice it's happening sometimes because it sounds so, it's not so jarring. It's subtly jarring, which I think is ultimately more effective than me being pulled out of the moment to think about how discordant this is.
100%. I think you said that so well. That's exactly what I've been trying to hit on too. And I think we should also mention, it's so easy for us to say something like this.
Oh my God.
You know,
I know, right?
that sounds like a really hard thing to do melodically. And I love the swing of doing it. Like, I think the show takes so many huge swings, and I that's what I love about it. And some of the things don't work, but more of it works than doesn't work. And I think
100%.
That's the main
100%
thing.
agree. And then, yeah, we do get to, I mean, the stakes are enormous here. I mean, we're singing what we can't say, and Buffy, for the last, like, 6 episodes of this season, has been withholding that she was in heaven and everybody pulled her out.
Yeah.
Because she knew it would hurt them to hear that. And now we're in a world where she has to sing that to them.
Yeah, it's still one of the greatest, like, oh shit moments for me ever is Buffy being like, oh, I think I was in heaven and I don't want to be back here anymore. And it's like, oh my God, what a, like, good version of, like, the consequences of bringing somebody back to life, because I feel like so many other media doesn't do that choice.
100%. Like, the idea that Buffy's death was not traumatic, being brought back to life was. That is totally that had not been done up until this point, I don't think. And we as the audience know already because we learned in like episode 3, I think, of this season when she tells Spike. Spike's the only person she tells. So it does sort of set up also Spike as this sort of confidant for Buffy, which he's going to be throughout season 6. So Spike knows, which also informs his response to this. Like, he is not shocked. Yeah. He's just like, okay, moving on. But it is the first time the rest of the cast is hearing it.
Yeah. And everybody does good work on the reactions as well, too. Yeah. You know, I think you really feel the weight of it from everybody else's reactions, and that's tough.
It is tough.
We do get an equally shocking reveal that Xander called the team.
It's a very funny reveal. It does get me every time.
It's so good. It's so good because I always get tricked into like, oh yeah, Dawn called the demon, duh, of course. And then it's
every time. Well, she asks at one point, like, if you know that Xander called the demon, it's weird how pointed Dawn is about, well, do they know who summoned it? Like, she like really puts a lot of sauce on that line if she doesn't have like a personal investment.
Exactly.
So it really does feel like she's covering something up for like the large part of the episode. But no, it's Xander, which is how we get out of the Sweet's terms of the deal, which is that he takes whoever summoned him as his bride. He goes, we'll waive that. Don't worry.
I mean, I do love that he's just kind of like, deuces, I just fucked up your whole shit. I don't care. I'm going to go do something else.
He really just chooses violence via musical theater. And I love that as a vibe.
Yes, something we can all relate to. Yeah.
Yeah. just sowing abject chaos through musical theater. Yeah, he really, really does just peace out. He's not really, we kind of, I think, Giles has in this last song, Where Do We Go From Here? Giles has lines like, the battle's done and we kind of won.
Yeah. Exactly.
He just left. I don't know if we won. We didn't really vanquish him, but he's not here anymore. So I guess it's fine.
And I mean, that kind of like feeling of like, oh, like kind of in between tragedy and comedy kind of thing feels very Sondheim to me as well too. Like feels like kind of into the woodsy, Sweeney Todd-y kind of like, totally. We won ? I love that Spike leaves halfway through that song. It's so good.
Yeah, the idea that like the effect is now wearing off, like we have this residual last music theater effect, but it's wearing off enough to the point where Spike has the agency to like be doing a dumb little like rainbow motion with his arm and being like, wait, fuck this. This is stupid. And like walk out. It's really quite delightful.
Yeah. I do like though, maybe I'm in two minds about this, but the part right after where Spike and Buffy get their song together as well too in the coda, where we end with a kiss feels very like movie musical kind of thing to me.
100%. Yeah.
And it is another big...
The curtain closes on a kiss, God knows. Exactly. Like that's one of the lines in Where Do We Go From Here?
Exactly. And you know, that is another kind of like raising of the stakes of like Buffy and Spike potentially, you know.
I mean, that's their first kiss that was not in Spike's dream once.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's right. But I don't know. It does feel a little bit out of place for me. I don't know if I like it or don't like it, to be honest.
How dare you?
It just feels like it comes a little bit out of nowhere. Like there isn't momentum
right
into
off.
It.
I cannot believe you right now.
Okay, go in.
I am like a big Spike Buffy fan. I will defend myself on a different podcast about why I am that. Despite everything that happens, there are moments. But I do think that like their tension had been building for me so solidly since like season 5 when he starts sort of having like that crush on her. And I think like it really, to me, it really works, like this advent of their relationship as being something that is ultimately like she is using him, and that's what she says when she like goes in for this. She's like, this isn't real, but I just want to feel. And I think it's like, I think it really works even based on this, like what just happened in the in the song before when, again, she reveals this horrible, horrible thing that's happened to her. And Spike is the only person she can talk to about it because Spike is dead. And like, so I think like it really works for me that like she would feel that closeness after having that moment with him where she is so clearly separated from everyone else and now they know why, but he's still a safer space for her. And to, again, both of their detriment, like what she's going to do is like sort of, you know, use him and destroy him emotionally, even if he doesn't seem to care that she's doing that. It's going to be detrimental to both of them for a while, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, to me, it really works. To me, it's a very exciting end to an episode also. Just it's such a classic way to like just raise the stakes again. Yeah. Like the stakes on this episode have been so sky high. And then we haven't had Buffy in a serious relationship since Riley.
That's true, yeah.
At this point. So it's been like a really long time since we had her with anyone that was recurring. Much less a main cast member. And so, and yeah, it's for me as like, you know, one of the OG Buffy stans. I was really waiting for this kiss and like went crazy when this happened. Just went absolutely feral.
That's a good point. I think those are very fair points, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then like you said, that's curtains.
It's curtains. I mean, literally curtains close.
Literally curtains.
Delightful.
Any last thoughts about the episode before we score this sucker?
I think we just gotta score it, man. How about you?
No, I want to go in. Let's score it. Let's get into the scoring. We have a 10-point scoring system with 10 categories. Each category is going to be scored from 0 to 10.
Our first category is general vibe. This is where we talk about how much we enjoyed it. How well is it aged? Was it problematic? Is it just a good episode of TV?
Yeah.
I'm
the vibe
really
is strong.
ready to give this a 10. I'm sitting here itching on the one key, but how about you?
Yeah, no, 10 it.
Nice.
There's nothing that's aged poorly about it for me in my mind. Xander is maybe his most likable in this. That's crazy.
A miracle. A miracle for a profoundly unlikable character.
Yeah, I have no notes. I think the vibe is great.
Great. All right. Next category.
We got the music category. That is going to include the arrangement, the composition, original versus found music, the chords, the melodies, how listenable it is. Oh, man, this is also pretty darn strong.
It's going to be high. It's generally for original versus found music. Original music automatically gets a higher score. It automatically gets more than 5, right? But this is pretty good original music with minor notes that you and I have made.
There's also so many songs that like it gives it more room for there to be error.
That's so true. Yeah.
I want to give this a 10. I don't think there's small nitpicky things, but there's so much more
But there's not enough
good.
to demote a whole point. Yeah. Let's go ahead and give it a 10.
And I think listenability alone, I have listened to this soundtrack so many times and like genuinely enjoyed doing that.
100%.
I think that's got to give it a 10.
100%. Yeah, let's give it a 10. This is going to be silly. All right. What's the point of the scores, you know?
Yeah. Our next category is lyrics. That's pretty straightforward. We're talking about rhyme schemes. We're talking about slant versus perfect rhymes. Doesn't match the character's voice and the tone of the show. It does. That's a 10. Yep. Lyrics are crazy in this. The lyrics are next level. These are like genuinely good musical theater lyrics.
They're genuinely really fun. Yep. They get a 10. Fantastic. All right, dancing. This is where we talk about, choreography, the difficulty of that choreography. How well is it executed? Do people dance fight? And yes, they do. Here we have fight/dance choreo, which is thrilling. This is, again, choreographed by Adam Shankman, who is a good choreographer overall. We have noted moments where, people are committing to the dancing, whether or not they are dancers. There are really great choreography moments. There are moments that don't work as well. I don't know. Where are we falling here?
So I think the only couple of things that I can think that are flaws in this is that Sarah Michelle Gellar like tap dancing to save her life kind of thing doesn't work for me, that whole song, even though the backup dancers bit is in that, which is incredible. But I also feel like we don't get like I guess it's not super necessary, but I would have liked maybe a more more people dancing together choreographed thing like they do for the mustard bit.
There's very little classic group dance number going on. Kind of only like group choreo we really get besides the mustard song is during Where Do We Go From Here? And that's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It's mostly standing in different lines. Classic choreo.
Yeah. But Anya and Xander's dance number, I love.
Very sweet.
I think that's very fun.
I love that number. And I love, again, Dawn's ballet we talked about, I think is really, really fun. So yeah, I think it's still going to be pretty high.
Yeah, I'm feeling like an 8, like a solid 8.
Yeah, I think an 8 is a good call. Next category is performance. This is vocal performance, but also acting performance. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, everyone really does their fucking damnedest. And I think there are really great vocal and acting performances in here. I think I'm always going to campaign Sarah Michelle Gellar should have won like 8 Emmys.
Oh my god!
Over the course of this series, it's stupid.
Every time I rewatch the show, I'm like, wow, she is so good, and she like really grows with the character. And I've never seen a character quite like Buffy on screen since.
It's almost like you take for granted that Buffy feels so natural that you almost think that Sarah Michelle Gellar's just doing herself, like not acting.
Yeah.
Like she almost feels like she's not acting, but she's acting her ass off. And the idea that, again, she's like coming back from this unbelievable trauma of being pulled out of heaven, and like she's doing, and it was so funny. I rewatched this show with my partner who'd never seen it. Crazy, but and I wanted to like scream at him because for the first few episodes of the season, when you don't know what's happened, she just seems weird and detached, and like you don't understand why she would be like that. And I just wanted to scream at him that no, she's doing an incredible job.
You don't get it. You don't get it yet.
I was like, you don't get it.
But I also think she does
acting.
She does a better job with that over more seasons as well too. Like I think she like refines it and makes it more specific. And it's a hard thing to do. I think it's an incredibly hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Give me a 10. 10 for performance.
Yeah. Let's just throw it in there. Let's just do it. We knew it's going to be there. Writing. I mean, relatively self-explanatory, this one. But this is mostly book. We've talked about lyrics. But this is mostly book. And God help me. I do really like the way Joss Whedon writes.
Yeah. Me too. I do think the show, or like the episode in general, kind of loses momentum in the latter half of it. But I think that's also a little bit intentional as like more and more things get revealed and it becomes just a bummer in general. It takes only in season 6 of Buffy would you have a musical episode that's still a bummer,
God, one of the most depressing seasons of television that exists.
Oh, it's so
just
good.
Unbelievable.
Injected straight into my veins. I love it. I don't know if I have many notes about the writing though. After saying that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty solid. Like we said, we get some really classic Buffy style jokes. I think Buffy has a line in here at one point where she's, I'm not exactly quaking in my stylish yet affordable boots.
Yeah, classic.
Absolutely classic. I just love the way Buffy speak is so specific, and many have come since and tried to imitate it, and have quite gotten there. They can't. It's infuriating when I feel the way I feel about Joss Whedon. But yes. I do think you're right in that it loses some steam for a minute there. And
like
we are doing I think a 9 is good.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, I think you're right. You said before that it's not a happy ending. It's a much more Sondheim Into the Woods style ending, which I think is also a bold choice for a musical episode. I think most musical episodes go for a big happy finish.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, 9.
9 sounds good. 9 sounds comfortable. If anything, to slight Joss.
Well, yeah. Just take that 1 point away from him. All right. Direction. So this has to do with, cinematography, the blocking, the framing, the editing. We talked a little bit about this. I mean, a lot of the choreo blocking is very classic music theater blocking. We're all being very demonstrative as we walked from room to room in a way we're not normally on just TV. And we've, adopted a slightly wider lens to capture more of it. We've also got, I think, we've got some really fun directing moments here. We've got like 100%. Really long takes that we don't normally get on this show. We do get some things, again, that are really clear to the world of this show, those smash cut jokes, stuff like that. But we do get stuff that is a departure that is, I think, respectful of the medium that we're in.
Totally. And we get really fun camera movement, especially in Anya and Xander's number, or in when does that happen? In Spike's number, when they do like a lot of Dutch angles and like kind of weird.
Oh, Dutch angles suddenly because we're in a rock song. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it's very fun, and we get a long shot when we're walking through like what is Studio City. We're walking through what is fictionally Sunnydale. Yeah. Even though we've never seen that part of Sunnydale before, and we crazy. Never will again. There's a different world in which I am like obsessed with the idea of making a map of Sunnydale, by the way, because there are like,
my God.
They mention at some point there are like something like 42 churches or something ludicrous like that.
I have a Buffy board game that has a map of Sunnydale, and it is
I would love to look at it.
Ridiculous. No, it is not what you want.
It makes no sense. I mean, like in this episode, like Tara says she's going to go to the magic shop, and Dawn says she'll be okay on her own for half an hour, implying that it takes maybe maximum 15 minutes to get on foot to the magic shop. Like, I don't know.
But anyway, I think direction's really strong. Anyway, I don't think I have any notes, really.
I don't either.
Let's give it a 10.
This is getting bad. Okay. Because I already know what's going to happen here, which is commitment is the next category. So this is how much they commit to the concept of being a musical. How many songs are there? Like, what is our song per minute ratio? And this is really high. Again, we commit from the start of the episode. Jump. We change our intro, and we have a different conclusion than we've ever had. Yep. And everybody sings everything.
Yep.
Like, it's fully committed to me. There's not a moment where we're winking at it.
100%. I mean, we are winking it. There's breaking the fourth wall, but in an in-universe way that makes sense. I think
100%, yeah.
Really commit to this. And again, it's like all original music too. Like, we've spent the man hours of like making this a very good musical episode. So I think
we hired a guy who does music and does musicals, exactly. To come choreo. Like So yeah, I mean, it gets a 10. This is getting predictable. So, because unfortunately, the next question is stakes. And this is, is this fundamentally, if you were watching this show, could you skip this episode and be okay? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are huge stakes for individual characters, for group character dynamics, for entire character arcs. Like, huge things happen in this episode because, again, we've taken the idea of singing what you can't say and doing it quite literally. So a lot of secrets. There are just so many secrets that come to the fore. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like extremely high stakes.
Yeah. Let's give it a 10.
I mean, what am I going to do? Fuck off, dude. This is ridiculous.
Last but not least, our personal ranking, which will average between the two of us. It'll be really hard to average these numbers, I'm sure. Yeah, any last statements, any last thoughts before we give our personal ranking?
I'll have thoughts after.
I mean, for me, it's a 10. It's a 10.
It's a 10,
it's
obviously.
A perfect musical.
I mean, it's a perfect thing. I think maybe the only thing I would have in an ideal world, Cordelia would have still been on the show.
Oh my God. How dare you put that in my brain?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Can she sing?
I don't care. Cordelia talking through a song would still be the most delightful thing I'd ever heard in my life. I'm so sorry I did this to you.
Did you make me like this episode less? That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's like, it sucks that I thought of that, but I needed to visit my trauma on you, and I'm so sorry.
All this to say, we have a cumulative rating of 97 out of 100 for Once More with Feeling. It's going to be tough to beat. I'd love to see the competition.
You think? I mean, there's a reason we kind of had to get this episode, quote unquote, out of the way, right? I mean, first of all, we've named our entire podcast after this episode, but there is a reason for that. It is impossible to have a conversation about musical episodes of TV without talking about this episode. It was so influential and so seminal and so groundbreaking. Like, it wasn't the first musical episode by a long shot. We're going to cover things that came before this, but this was so... the impact of this was so much greater because this was a hit show in the peak of its viewership, like taking this insane swing.
Yep. And
it fucking paid off. Like, they did a really great job, and it really did change the landscape. And it's just a treat to watch, man.
It's so good.
I mean, it's so fun.
Yeah. We're obviously biased, but
obviously
that is going to be the framework of this whole show.
Yeah. If you want an unbiased, I mean, the idea of listening to an unbiased podcast is ludicrous to me. Like, what's the point of that?
Absolutely.
This is not NPR's Left, Right, and Center. Fucking hate that show. But yeah, no, this was always going to be the one to beat. And so we needed to set this as it's the highest bar that anyone's ever set, unfortunately.
I feel comfortable saying if a show passes this bar, we'll change the name of our show.
We'll change the name of the show, man. We will be forced to.
All right, that wraps us up with a 97 out of 100. A tall order to beat for Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Once More with Feeling. It is both our highest rated musical and our lowest rated musical at the moment.
Wow, impressive. Well, we'll see if anyone can beat it next week. We'll see you once more with Season 6, Episode 6 of Scrubs, entitled My Musical.
You can find this episode on Hulu and on Peacock.
Thank you to Olivia Berslowski, our angelic audio architect, and to Sakana Powell, our debonair digital designer.
If you like this show, please be sure to rate and review us. If you don't, keep it to yourself. You can find us on Instagram at Once More with TV or contact us using the information in the show notes. And scene.